Hi, my name is Mollie Carmichael with Zonda, and this podcast series is a conversation with the industry's most inspirational leaders building the future of our communities, the places we love to visit, and ultimately where we all call home. I love the design and development business and all that goes into creating a new place. It's really interesting, and I think you'll find it interesting too. I've had the pleasure and great fortune to work with so many of these amazing leaders and their teams on my travels over the last 25 plus years. And so we're going to talk to the industry's best, the brightest, and truly the most inspirational people behind the scenes, creating those places and spaces that are most important to you, or they will be one day. It's fascinating to think that their legacy will live on for hundreds and hundreds of years. Today, we are joined by Steve Alloy. He's the president of Stanley Martin Homes. Stanley Martin Homes is one of the largest home builders up and down the East Coast. They were recently named America's Best Builder in 2021, and they are also amongst the top most trusted home builders in 2022, according to Life Story Research. Steve has a really interesting history. He's the son of a home builder. I won't steal too much thunder there. We'll hear from Steve here shortly. He has a history in global finance before becoming a home builder, and many years as a home builder and developer and builder of urban apartments, condos, hotels, and of course, homes up and down the East Coast. Steve is not only one of the smartest guys you'll meet in our industry, but he's without a doubt one of the nicest and most genuine guys you'll meet. Aside from his full-time job leading a huge organization, he's also involved in Homemade America and Northern Virginia Family Services, helping with the homelessness throughout the U.S. Please join me and welcome Steve Alloy. Hello and welcome. We're here with Steve Alloy, who's the Chief Executive Officer and President of Stanley Martin Homes. So welcome.
Thanks, Mollie.
It's good to have you, Steve. So we're going to just dive in with some simple questions. And I always like to start with the most basic question, which is, tell us what you do on what's your typical day look like and what do you do for the company?
Sure. So I'm the president and CEO of Stanley Martin Homes, and I've been in that position for 24 years. And in my early days as CEO, we were a much smaller company. We were in one market in Washington, D.C. We were about 60 people, maybe 175 homes a year. And so what I used to do was I was very active in every neighborhood and our sales and our marketing and our construction. And as the company's grown, today we've got over 13 housing divisions and build about 5,000 homes per year, at least we will this year. And it's about 1,000 people. So most of what I do today is leading people, motivating, building a culture, guiding people to execute our strategy. So it's very different than it was in the old days.
I know it's especially in this climate today, it's an interesting world we're living in right now, for sure. Anyways, tell us a little bit about sort of how you got into home building. Like, how did it all start for you, kind of starting back at the beginning?
Yeah, well, I never intended to be a home builder, although I came from a home builder family. So my father founded Stanley Martin in the mid 60s. And so I never really had an interest in joining the family business there. After college, I went into international real estate investment sales and was mostly working with Japanese investors investing in the US real estate market. And then there was a recession in 89, 90, 91, where that business really dried up and my commissions dried up. And there was an opening over at Stanley Martin and I took it. It wasn't strategic, it wasn't planned. I just fell into a job that was better than the one I had.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you grew up in the business with your dad as a home builder.
Yeah, I mean, we, when I was a kid, we would, he would go and visit neighborhoods on the weekend. So my brother and I, or my sister and I, would be in the back of the car and we'd spend our Saturdays visiting model homes and, looking at neighborhoods and driving around.
I can't tell you how many times I've done that with my own kids. I mean, I think my kids were on job sites like at 2 months old. I mean, it was crazy, but that's pretty neat. So tell me a little bit about your dad's management style.
So he has a classic founder's mentality. So very strong personality, entrepreneur, you know, fight your way through to figure out how to get it done. And as a company founder, you start off doing everything yourself. And so, you know, very active decision maker. And, you know, he built a few very successful companies, Stanley Martin Homes being one of them.
Well, tell me, so looking back, I'm going to take you back to when you were just a kid, thinking about who you wanted to be and what you wanted to be when you grew up. Where did you see yourself going, you know, back in the day, and what is it that you wanted to do then?
When I was a kid, I was just a kid. So for me, it was, you know, playing sports and soccer and basketball. And I think if I went back to when I was really young, I wasn't really thinking about career. It was all about sports and athletics and such. But if I roll that forward into middle school or high school, I think I always had this thought that I'd be in business, that I always had jobs. I grew up in a place where you had to work and do things as a kid. And I always thought that I would be in some kind of business one day.
So let me ask you this question. As a, you know, a person growing up in the business, your father obviously led a lot of successful businesses. You saw home building. Why not home building initially?
You know, when I went to Wharton undergrad in the 1980s, there was, you know, it was very much Wall Street oriented. The globalization of economies and interconnectedness was really taking off, especially with Japan back then. And I had this passion to do something internationally. And so I never really thought about moving back to DC and getting into the home building business. I really saw myself doing something globally.
That's pretty neat. Well, you know what? I think your father would be very proud today just to see how, you know, much you've done with the company and all of that. It's pretty cool. Tell me today where Stanley Martin has their operations.
Sure. So we're headquartered in the Virginia suburbs of Washington, D.C., and our footprint or geography goes from the south side of Baltimore, Maryland, down through Orlando and Tampa. And we're in, depending on how you count it, 13, 14 metro areas. So we're in DC market and Richmond, Charlottesville, Raleigh, Carolina Coast, Charlotte, Atlanta, all through South Carolina, Greenville, Spartanburg, Columbia. We're in Augusta, Georgia, Charleston, and then we're in Florida and Orlando and Tampa right now. So it's basically from DC south.
Well, definitely for somebody who likes to travel, that I'm sure that gives you a lot of opportunity to travel in those markets too, I would imagine.
It does. You know, every time I would, as COVID would go up and down over the last couple of years, it's like, oh, let's turn on travel again. Let's go see everybody. And then there'd be some spike and, oh, let's turn off travel, everybody, you know. And so it would come in waves over the past couple of years. But yeah, one of the things I really enjoy is getting out to our divisions, seeing our team members and meeting people on site. And just, I like to be out and about and connecting with people.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they love to see you too. It's always great when when the people leading the company are definitely present and showing up. Let's talk a little bit about the company itself. As it relates to leadership in your company, what do you see as the key ingredients to leading a team? Obviously, you're leading the company, you've got sort of your core values, but even what you're looking for in your key leaders too.
Yeah, I mean, at Stanley Martin, we're very focused on the culture of the company and how we interact as individuals trying to all get this done. And that I think we've built something very special, and it allows us to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish. We've had some extraordinary growth and success over the years. And we make a big investment in who we bring in and how we all train and learn together and how we work together. And so, I would say that people who we've got a lot of long-term team members and people who've been here a long time. I just had somebody retire after 23 years with us, and just sent me a beautiful note and about how much he loved working at Stanley Martin. And that's a common experience that happens to me. And I see the other side too. I meet every one of our new team members, and we do a meet and greet. And when I get feedback where people say, I'd heard about what it's like working there. I didn't really believe it, but then a position opened and I joined, and I'm just kicking myself that I didn't come over earlier, because we have a place that's we treat as very special, where people really we try to create a place that people really enjoy what they do.
Everybody I've met with your company, they're just really genuine, great people. So it definitely comes through in the employees too, for sure. That's pretty great. What do you think are the core leadership skills for you personally? I mean, one of them certainly is the fact that you personally meet every single person that works for the company. That's huge.
Yeah, it's fun though, right? I love it. So we hire about, right now the pace is about 14 people every 3 weeks. So when we get that group size, 12 to 14, we used to do it in person. Now we're doing it over Teams by video.
Sure.
And so it's just part of an onboarding, putting a face with a name. We get to talk as people ask questions. We get into discussions, and it helps to create connection, because I do a lot of communicating throughout the company of where we're going, why we're going, what we're trying to accomplish. And I just think it's helpful for them to put a face to the voice that they're reading or the voice that they're hearing.
Sure.
And I think it's great. But in terms of leadership, the things that we try to drive here that are really important to me is always speak the truth, so that you never have to worry about what you say if you're always just saying what's real. And so just always be straight with everybody, with the good and the bad. And the other thing is, it's not just the content of what you're saying, but it's how can we speak from the heart? How can we share the why of what we're doing? So one of the things that I do a lot of is when I'm talking to somebody on the team about something that we're doing, taking the time to say, hey, here's why we do that. This is why that's important. And along with that, when things are good or things are less good, also being very open about how we feel, right? And being a little bit vulnerable about that. And just, when something's upsetting, sharing, hey, that's upsetting. Or when something's great, it's like, wow, you have no idea how great that makes me feel based on what you did in that situation. And so, and kind of the last thing is, we have a culture where there isn't a lot of hierarchy, where there's it's basically the idea is to be humble, right? That we all wake up, we're all human, we all kind of live our lives, everybody's got something to contribute. And it's a very egalitarian perspective and valuing everybody, right? Nobody's that smart.
Right. And that's the way you get ahead too, right? I mean, all new ideas are good ideas. That's
totally agree.
Super important. Well, looking back as you were sort of working as a home builder, you come into the whole home builder experience. Was there a point at which you thought, was there any sort of one point where it was like, God, I love this business, or like a turning point in your career where like, I'm going to do this I want to be here forever?
Yeah. I mean, there really was. I mean, if I look backwards, I became CEO of Stanley Martin in 1998. And on that day, becoming CEO was my 14th position at Stanley Martin. My first position was as a construction laborer when I was in high school for a couple of summers. And I had a summer job in an accounts payable job in an accounting department. And when I joined the company, I'd come from a transactions business and real estate sales, and I moved in as a land acquisition manager, buying property. But I very quickly moved into other roles. So it was in sales, on-site and model home. I was on construction, on-site building homes. But the place where it really changed for me was when I joined our purchasing team. And the reason is that at that time in Stanley Martin's history, the purchasing roles were really kind of pass-through roles, that it was where construction managers would come into an office job for say 6 to 9 months and learn the office side, the procurement side of the business, and then move back. And so they would develop in their careers. And what happened was, the purchasing never became really sophisticated. So when I moved into it, I had been in sales, I had been in construction, but I also came out of business school. And so I brought a lot of computerization, analytics, moved us into unit costing in a way nobody had done before. It was and so I really had an impact. And by, in a job where you're impacting so much about what's happening in the company, and then you get more responsibility because you're accomplishing more. And I just like, wow, I can really make a difference at this company. And so it was through those days in various purchasing roles in the early mid 90s.
You know what? That's so smart. On that note, that would be it's probably, I think, one of the funnest jobs in the company as well, because that's where everything comes together, right? I mean, you're going in, not only looking at the plans, there has to be some form of value engineering that's a part of that. But not only that, selecting every piece that goes into the home is such a huge part, right? So how do you guys actually today, and how did you do it then, select what to go into the home? Like, how does that work?
So it's not easy. It's particularly not easy during a COVID-driven supply chain crisis.
Right.
Because we have ebbed and flowed around the concept of choice at Stanley Martin. And so there are times when more choice is better, and there are times when less choice is better. And we have a strategy that we call outstanding but limited choice. And the idea is that we need to be the experts to pick the best products to go into a home. And to, nobody needs, when I teach this, I talk about, well, with Amazon, you can buy a refrigerator, almost any refrigerator made anywhere in the world, you could buy and have it delivered to a house for installation. And that's unlimited choice. Or we could go to a choice model that's, well, with Whirlpool or GE or someone, we can buy any one of 36 refrigerators. Or we can figure out, okay, what are the 4 best refrigerators at different price points and features? We become the experts. We figure out how we're going to be able to buy 1,000 of each of those 4, so we can create more value. They're always in stock. It's just a concept. We have to have the outstanding part to really be the experts on what consumers want and what's the best value for them for the things that they want, and limited so that we can execute the business in a way that's cost effective and efficient, and it all happens when it's supposed to.
For sure. And I know you guys do a lot of customer research too. I know you've joined our consumer study too, just, understanding what they want. And frankly, there's a measure too of really where they want to spend their dollars too, right? Where you kind of emphasize and place those dollars is a big responsibility. So I could see, that would be so fun to do. I really love that part of the business too.
I can say historically over my career, I think one of the safest jobs at Stanley Martin is market researcher, because we are constantly asking our market research team, which today is a team of 4 people. We want to know the answers to the kinds of questions you're asking, to what consumers want, to what's happening in the land markets, what are our competitors doing. And so good markets, bad markets, whatever, there's this tremendous focus on market research at Stanley Martin.
And frankly, I think there's so much money to be sort of saved, or I would say placed in the right categories by understanding that, specifically with your business background and some of that stuff. I mean, it amazes me sometimes when builders don't do that. It just, to me, that there's so much, it's better for the consumer in the end. And I think it's better for business too. Sounds a little self-serving because I do so much of that, but I firmly and 100% believe in it, because I, as a builder, saw it really work too. Yeah. Tell me this. So what are the things that make you get up early to go into the office or stay late? What are those things that at the office every day that you love to do?
So, what do I love about my job? I was at an event last night and somebody asked me, "Oh, Steve, are you still working?" And it's an odd question that people ask me, because we sold most of the company many years ago to the Daiwa House Group out of Japan, and people just assume I retired. I'm like, no, I love what I do, right? I'm having more fun, it's more interesting, and really every day, I candidly can't wait to get up and do this. If you ask me about hobbies, one of my huge hobbies is work. I love it.
Me too.
And so, specific things that I do, I actually love our Wednesday land investment committees. We mentioned the meet and greets that I do about every 3 weeks with our new team members. I love having my one-on-ones with the team that I work directly with. I love when I'm visiting neighborhoods, and really it's just a rush for me. I don't think there's anybody happier at work than I am.
That's pretty cool. You know what, I feel sad for people that don't love their jobs, right? We're going to do just a quick round of questions. If you were to tell me sort of just a couple of responses to favorite sports today, what's your favorite sport?
Oh, that's super easy for me. Tennis, and tennis. I'm a
Nice.
tennis fanatic, so I'll be on the court 3 to 4 times a week, unless I can play more than that.
So you're good at tennis, I'm guessing.
There's always a better player. And,
that's awesome.
And I'm lucky because my wife also shares that passion. We had our first date on the tennis court, and
nice.
got engaged on the tennis court, and so we get to go on vacation, play tennis together.
How sweet.
Things. It's fun.
That's really, really cool. So what about your favorite place to vacation?
It's typically warm. It's typically resorty. It's often in the Caribbean or in Florida, and it always has great tennis courts.
Nice. I'd ask you your favorite pastime, but I think I know that for sure. What about your favorite thing to do other than tennis when you're home?
I've got 3 kids, and they've now aged up so that I'm an empty nester. My youngest, Lindsay's just graduating college this May.
Nice.
And so, so now, we're travelers. We've got this newer empty nester life, although the past couple of years it was COVID life. And so, I just actually came back from 2 trips. We love to kind of be on the road and visit places and see the world.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I thought you were going to ask about my crazy hitchhiking experiences or things like that.
Do you have a crazy hitchhiking experience? That's what I want to know.
I have hitchhiked all over the world. My longest journey was over 1,000 miles.
Really?
Yeah, in up the coast of Australia.
Wow.
I wanted to go diving, so hitchhiked north. And
so what inspired you to go hitchhiking?
My older brother, just back in the day, that when he didn't have gas money, that was how he got around. And so
that is hysterical.
It was not abnormal for me.
So you hitchhiked over 1,000 miles in Australia?
Yeah, I hitchhiked across Japan as well.
Wow. So
yeah.
any crazy experiences there? Like, what was the craziest thing that happened to you on both trips?
Well, the craziest hitchhiking experience I have is I got in a guy picked me up in a van, and as we're driving, I noticed that on his knuckles was tattooed KILL.
Oh, nice.
And so he's like, where are you going? I'm right here. Right. Just let me out of the corners. Perfect. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I don't think this will be a long drive.
That's right. And,
oh my gosh.
No, you meet great people. Like in Japan back in the 80s. I mean, picking up an American on the side of the road is like a story you're going to tell a lot of your friends. It was I was a novelty.
Oh my gosh. So what inspired you to go to Japan, and then how long were you there, and how long did you hitchhike?
Well, I just hitchhiked from Tokyo to Kanazawa, kind of across the Alps. And that,
just.
Well, it was just one overnight on the road. And that I was going to language school. So I enrolled in a school that was in rural Japan, and that was how I got there. And so, yeah. So anyway, it was a long time ago.
Do you speak fluent Japanese?
No. I spoke broken conversational Japanese when I was in investment sales, and I started to try to pick it up again as after I joined Iowa House. Started studying again, but in your 50s, it's just hard to do.
Wow.
It's a chore, but you hear things, you understand things. I can make my way around Japan and order food and do what I need to do, but I don't speak Japanese anymore. I basically aged out of that.
That's good. So you can pick up when someone's speaking another language, if they're saying like, does this guy know what he's doing?
We were in a Stanley Martin model home with the head of international who'd flown in, the big guy to make the decision. And we're in the master bedroom looking out the back window. It was just him, the translator, and me. Everybody's in another part of the house. And he turns to the translator and says, so where do people who live here work? And so I answered in English, they mostly work in Northern Virginia. They don't go downtown. And then we both realized the translator didn't chime in.
Oh,
Right?
interesting.
I was just answering early.
Sure. That's pretty cool.
But mostly I don't understand Japanese anymore.
But enough though that it definitely plays to your favor. That's great.
Yeah, a little bit.
So what brought you to Australia?
I had gotten a job offer in Tokyo that I really wanted, and it was a startup company to invest all these assets in the U.S. out of Japan. And they said it's going to take us like 6 to 8 weeks to get our licensing and our office and get it all going. And they, can you wait? I'm like, yeah, I can wait. And so I flew to New Zealand and I hitchhiked from the north to the south. And then I went to Australia, spent 5 weeks there and up through Malaysia and Thailand. And then I called in, they said, we're ready.
Oh my gosh.
So I went back. Here's the rest of the story. I show up for work on Monday. I get my suit and suitcase and all that out of storage. I show up for work on Monday and I get fired.
Why?
The founder of the company had died.
Oh.
And his kids decided they weren't going to continue it. And the whole thing that was a startup was just shutting down.
Oh.
And so just in that week between Bangkok and Tokyo, the guy had passed away, and it was just, yeah, we're not going to start a new company. And that I'd been hired to be one of the people working.
Don't you believe everything happens for a reason, though? I mean, look where you are today. And not only that, though, but look at the experience you had. Well,
more importantly, so in that moment, I'm like, oh, I'm out of work, right? What do? It's May 1988. And so I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go home for the summer. I'm going to regroup. I'm going to come back in the fall and get a job here. And 4 days later, after I got home, I met Margie.
Oh, that's the best. That's the best story.
So then when we met and first started dating, she knew I was leaving. It was kind of just summer. Yeah, this guy's not going to be here. And then I decided to stay, and we got married. That
is the best. See, absolutely. Everything happens for a reason. That is the greatest story. Well, tell me this. What is it that, tell me some of the secret ingredients, if you will, that makes up a Stanley Martin home? Like what are sort of, in the developments and homes and some of the placemaking that you're doing, what are some of the key things that make your developments different or better based on how you guys run the company?
Yeah, I mean, we, on the product side, on the home design side, as we talked about, we have a pretty strong emphasis on market research, but we're kind of relentless at the details. Mm-hmm. We have a design process that just it values people working to improve the outcome, and we will spin that house around and just make it better through the design process. And I think we have a lot of home designs that the market finds favorable. But one of the things that I think is special about a Stanley Martin neighborhood, you mentioned our development. So our company has a very heavy land orientation, and we self-develop the majority, not all, but the majority of our neighborhoods. And so through that self-development process, we have a lot of engineering project managers, and we have deep experience developing, whether they're master plan communities or standalone subdivisions, that we love our engineering professionals that we work with, but their role often is getting things to work, streets, grades, and sewers, and safety features, and whatever it might be. But what Stanley Martin brings to it is our team. We recognize our job is to take whatever our engineering firm has done and apply a consumer marketing lens to it. And so we are changing grades to get the house to site in the proper way and the proper driveway, and get them to orient right and to do the entrances and the pocket parks. And so the moving the tree save lines. And so we take an engineering plan that's fully approved and we go through and we're like, okay, now let's, even though a government and engineering firm have said this works, how do we now make it great from a livability for how people will exist in that future neighborhood? And I think we do some great neighborhoods because of that approach.
You know what? I will say this, every time I visit a Stanley Martin home, there's just something a little bit better about your designs. So you guys are doing, something right. It just, the look and the feel, inside and out, you guys do a really nice job. So if you were buying a home today, what advice would you give to yourself?
When people buy homes, it's often a very emotional decision, and there's whether you're looking at a used home or a new home. Let's hope people are looking at new homes. That to think through the life experience and your own personal life choices and what's most important to you to how that'll work, because it's not the same for everybody. And so people entering a period of time when they're going to have young children and children that will grow up in a house and they're buying that house for that, they may not yet have the experience of what will work best for children. But obviously it's about thinking forward to not just what do I need today, but what will I need over the time that I want to live here. And I think that as people approach it, it's an emotional purchase, but I like to hope that the thoughtfulness comes through to really buy the right house for a homeowner. One of the things that I don't believe in is I don't believe in people making this choice about in the investment aspect of it, right? So a lot of people historically, a home purchase has been a path towards savings and wealth accumulation. But to me, that's not the goal of a house. A side benefit is if you live in a house for a prolonged period of time, it typically rises in value and you've got a mortgage that's paying down and you become wealthier by being a homeowner. But that's not why, that's not the driver. And I think that figuring out how to prioritize all the life experience choices that drive that purchase is so much more important than, oh, this house will go up in value more than that house.
That's such an interesting perspective, because that's really how the home should be designed too, right? What are the life experiences that you want to enhance and make better? And how does that really happen through the design? That's a brilliant answer.
Thank you.
No, yeah, it's so funny because I often will hear the investment side of it. And so I'm going to take to some degree the other side to that, which is when you're guiding someone to actually purchasing a home today, or the question I always get is, do I wait, in 2 or 3 years when the downturn happens, because it's going to happen at some point. Will it happen? What's the advantage to still buying in an up market, or kind of where we're at today versus waiting the 3 years? And I have my own opinions on that, but I'm curious to hear your response on that, because I get that question so often, not just in the business, but family and friends and things like that. Like, should I buy now or do I wait?
I have my own perspective on it, which I'll share. It doesn't make it the right perspective, but my perspective is that it isn't a decision that should be subject to market timing. So from in my own world, investing in the stock market, oh, it's really high, don't invest. Well, oh, next year it's still really high, don't. And the ability to market time and investment like that is really hard. The experts can't do it. I don't expect myself to be able to. And so I think a home is the same way. So if people are buying a home because they need something about that home, there's some reason they want to move, then it could be higher or lower or different in the future. And trying to time that means you're not getting what you want when you want it. You're waiting for some investment aspect to be more favorable. And my own view is buy the house, create the living environment that you want to have without having the investment side drive the timing of that. Because I just don't think market timing works most of the time.
On the one thing that I will share too is the fluctuation of interest rates with market downturns and the impact of that. So find the monthly payment that, is comfortable for you and the home that goes with that, because your goal is to pay it off in 30 years, right? So why would you give somebody else rent for 3 years when you could be really making that payment towards yourself and own that home 3 years earlier? So I agree.
If you're in an apartment and you want to buy a house and, oh, it's really high, I want to wait. Well, it's just a longer period of time you're not in a house.
right.
And there's a non-financial cost to that of, once you're in, it's like, oh, I love living in my new home.
Oh,
Well,
totally.
let's have that love for a longer period of time.
Well, and I think if you own a home, logically speaking, it's completely smart to buy at any time because you're cashing out your own equity, right? So if you sell at the high and buy at the high, you're winning either way, right? So to me, that makes total sense. I don't know why anybody who owned a home would wait, because at that, obviously the home you're going to sell, you're going to
Right.
make
Both sides.
You're going to cash out there, right?
That's
well,
right.
Tell me about this as we sort of wrap up. Tell me who the top inspirational leaders are in your life, and maybe share what about their leadership style that you really like.
Sure. So, I'll start with my father, Martin Alloy, the Martin and Stanley Martin. And so, he led our company for 32 years. And because I was his kid, I got to observe that. And I got to witness the things that he did and learn from the things that didn't go as well and as well as things that went great. And so I got to observe all that firsthand, which is, I think, actually really cool.
It is neat.
And, because in our business, as you know, it's just so cyclical. There's some great boom times that are just so much fun. And then there's some downturns that are really hard. And so I got to see that and experience it both as someone not working in the business and then somebody working in the business with him. Another place where I have a lot of mentors is an organization I love called YPO, Young Presidents Organization. It's a global educational organization for individuals that become CEOs at a very young age. So you can kind of learn from other CEOs. And so through that, I have met all kinds of great individuals from around the world and who run large businesses. And that many of those have been very inspirational to me. But I think about in our industry, there are people that I really respect, and I see them, I hear them, I meet with them, and I take away nuggets that I think have really helped me in my career. I was in a sharing group with John Wheeland from Atlanta, who built this incredible business, John Wheeland Homes and Neighborhoods, and John was just so passionate about product and branding, and there was a premium to having a John Wheeland home, and I learned a lot about how he approached that. Another one in the home building space right now, Cheryl Palmer at Taylor Morrison. I think that her approach to leadership and how she builds and leads an organization and with a focus on people and culture, it resonates with what I'm trying to do. And so when I see her at conferences or in various ways that we might interact, I like it. Reinforces for me what we're trying to create here, because I think it's a very successful path of what she's created.
She's pretty great, but both great leaders, actually. I actually see qualities on the John Wheeland side in your homes. That's interesting to know that was a mentor for you.
Yeah, John's a good friend. Yeah.
Yes, they definitely build beautiful homes. Tell me, as we're sort of wrapping up, top 3 qualities, if you were guiding your leaders or leaders out there, what do you think are the top 3 qualities to be not just a great leader, but an inspirational leader?
I touched on it a little bit before, but the humility is really important. being in the emotional leadership, the ability to connect with people and talk to people in a way and at a level where everyone feels valued. And it's not a bunch of words, but it's something that brings with it passion and heart. And really always, I mean, just the super important part of our culture is we just have to be straight with everybody, right? So tell people what we're trying to do, go out and do it, tell them what we did, but never stray from what the right thing is and what's most important, and just kind of stay to that true north and make sure everybody knows what it is, and people will nod their heads and say, let's do that.
I like that. I like that a lot. Well, Steve, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your time and a little bit about your life and how you got to where you got to. We really appreciate the time and look forward to seeing what Stanley Martin's doing in the future.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Molly. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us today with Steve. There are so many great takeaways from today's discussion. A lot of fun going through some of those questions. But I think my big takeaway is just a couple of them for you is I love number one, for sure, everything happens for a reason and you never know what's around the corner. The second one is explore every opportunity. It's likely going to make you smarter. So again, whether you're switching careers, whatever that is, you never know what you're going to love until you do it. And you may think you don't love something until you really find out that you can make a difference. And it's really having that meaning behind your career that really makes the difference. So make sure you're making a difference, but also that your teams have that opportunity as well. The next one is near and dear to my heart. Understand your customers. It can really make a difference, not only in your company, your product, your bottom line. And last but not least, people really matter. Every person in his company matters. He meets with every one of them day one. Know them, listen to them, encourage them to make their own difference. So with that, thank you guys for joining us, and we hope you'll join us the next time. Take care.